All right, so you're ready to jump into community gardening. Huh? And you grabbed a handbook. Smart move.
Definitely a good place to start.
We're going to give you like a little sneak peek into chapter 1.
The intro.
Yeah, Introduction to Community Gardening. So you can get all the good stuff without having to, read through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, community gardening, we all know that gardening is awesome, right?
Of course, yeah.
But this isn't just about growing veggies.
Right.
It's like community gardens are these little secret weapons for like good vibes and building community and just making the planet a healthier place.
Yeah, it's amazing how there's so much more than just a shared plot of land.
Right.
They're like little ecosystems.
Okay, so, that sounds really cool, but break it down for me. What exactly is it that makes a community garden so different than, say, my grandma's veggie patch in her backyard?
Well, your grandma's garden is great for her, but a community garden takes it to a whole new level.
Okay.
It's about sharing the resources and splitting the workload.
Right.
But the real magic is in the connections that people make.
So it's like social hour, but with shovels and seedlings.
Yeah, you could say that. It's about taking that individual effort and turning it into like a collective force for good. It brings people together from all walks of life.
Yeah.
It creates the sense of belonging and shared purpose.
I can already feel the good vibes just talking about it.
Right.
But the handbook mentioned something about community gardening being good for your health.
Yes.
Seriously, I thought the only workout I was going to get was hauling bags of compost.
No, it goes beyond just the fresh air and sunshine.
Okay.
Studies show that community gardening can actually reduce stress and boost your mood.
Mm.
There's something about digging in the dirt and nurturing life that's good for the mind.
So it's like therapy, but with tomatoes and sunflowers, I'm in.
Exactly.
So that's great for us. But what about the planet?
Yeah.
Sustainability is a big deal these days. So how do community gardens actually make a difference?
Well, if you kind of connect it to the bigger picture, community gardens are like mini eco-warriors.
Okay.
Yeah.
They
help reduce those food miles that are associated with transporting produce from industrial farms that could be, thousands of miles away.
Right.
And they combat the concrete jungle effect by bringing back those green spaces into urban landscapes.
Okay, I see how that makes a difference. But wait, hold on. There's more. The handbook also mentions social and cultural benefits too. How deep does this rabbit hole go?
Pretty deep.
Right?
Imagine a space where people from all sorts of different backgrounds come together.
Yeah.
And they're sharing skills and recipes and even cultural celebrations.
Oh, wow.
Community gardens can weave this vibrant tapestry of human connection. It fosters understanding and breaks down barriers. It's pretty remarkable.
Wow. All of that from a community garden. My mind is officially blown.
It is amazing.
So how does someone actually take that first step?
Yeah.
I'm all fired up now. Where do I even begin?
That's where the getting started section in the handbook comes in. It's like your roadmap for your community garden journey.
All right, so what's the first thing someone should do if they're thinking about starting one of these?
Well, the first thing that the handbook really emphasizes is gauging community interest.
Okay.
You need to see, is there enough enthusiasm and support to really fuel this project?
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you live in a big city? Finding a plot of land to garden sounds like a challenge.
You'd be surprised. It's not always about finding a massive plot of land.
Okay.
You can get creative.
Okay.
You can look at rooftops, balconies, even unused parking lots.
Oh, wow.
Transform those into thriving community gardens. It's about adapting to your environment and finding creative solutions.
Okay, so say you've got a good feeling about the community interest. What's next? Do you just start digging?
Not so fast. There are some key considerations before you break ground.
Okay.
The handbook recommends scouting potential locations
Right.
with a few things in mind. Access to sunlight's crucial.
Yeah, those veggies need their sunshine.
Exactly. You also want to consider soil quality, access to water,
Right.
and even things like, is it close to where community members are? Are there any potential safety concerns?
So it's like finding the perfect real estate for your plants.
Yeah, location, location, location.
But how do you even know if a spot is even viable for a garden?
Well, that's where it gets a little tricky.
Okay.
You'll want to check things like zoning laws and regulations to make sure your spot's actually allowed for gardening activities.
Zoning laws. Now you're throwing legal jargon at me.
Don't worry, the handbook explains all of that in plain English.
Okay.
It's just about making sure you've got the official green light from your local authorities.
Gotcha. So we've got some potential locations scouted out. We've checked with the legal stuff.
Yeah.
And we're feeling pretty confident. What's next?
This is where the fun begins.
Yep.
The handbook dives into planning resources, assembling your dream team, and designing the layout of your garden.
Ooh, so we're talking raised beds, pathways, composting systems,
Yeah.
and maybe even some of those whimsical gnome villages we talked about earlier.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
We'll delve into that exciting world of garden design and community engagement next time.
All right, I'm in.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're back, and we're ready to get our hands dirty.
Let's do it.
We've talked about all those awesome benefits of community gardening
Yes.
and how to find that perfect spot.
Right.
Now it's time to get down to business and figure out how to make this dream garden a reality.
And that's where the handbook's advice on building a strong community garden team comes in.
So true.
Huh?
But what does that actually look like? Who are the key players we need on this team?
It's like assembling your gardening superhero squad.
Ooh,
You need folks with different skills and talents.
okay.
You know, you need people to organize volunteers,
Right.
manage resources, handle communications and outreach.
So we need a master planner, a green thumb guru, and like a social media whiz. Sounds like my kind of party.
Exactly.
But how do we actually find these amazing people?
Well, the handbook suggests starting by tapping into your existing networks.
Okay.
You know, friends, family, neighbors, local organizations,
Right.
and then spread the word far and wide.
Okay.
Use social media community bulletin boards, even flyers at your local coffee shop.
I love that. It's about harnessing that power of the community right from the start.
Exactly.
But let's be real. Volunteering takes time and energy.
Yes, it does.
How do we keep people engaged and excited about the project in the long run?
That's a great question. And the handbook has some clever strategies for that.
Okay, like what?
Think about skill sharing workshops, volunteer appreciation events,
Oh, fun.
even potlucks, where everyone can enjoy the fruits and veggies of their labor.
I love it.
It's about creating that sense of ownership and making sure everyone feels valued and appreciated.
It's like building a community within a community.
Exactly.
I love that.
Okay.
But what about the actual design of the garden?
Mm.
I'm picturing like Pinterest-worthy raised beds, winding pathways, maybe even like a little solar-powered fountain.
Those are great ideas. But remember, functionality comes first.
Oh, okay.
The handbook encourages us to think about accessibility for everyone,
Okay.
making sure those pathways are wide enough for wheelbarrows and tools,
Makes sense.
and that the different gardening areas can cater to people's different needs and abilities.
So maybe skip the elaborate maze and focus on creating a space that's welcoming and easy to navigate.
Exactly.
Good point. But what about those raised beds I was so excited
Oh,
about?
they're great.
Are they a good fit for community gardens?
Absolutely. Raised beds are a fantastic option, especially in urban environments where the soil quality might not be great.
Right.
They offer better drainage, they make gardening more accessible for people with mobility challenges,
Right.
and you can even customize them to different heights.
Ooh, I'm picturing a raised bed for kids, a raised bed for wheelchair users, a raised bed for the possibilities are endless.
They are. And don't forget about incorporating seating areas,
Oh, yeah.
tool sheds, and even a composting system.
That's a good idea.
Remember, a community garden's about more than just growing food. It's a space for people to gather, connect, and learn.
It's about creating a little oasis right in the heart of the community. I love it. But how do we go from a blank canvas to a thriving garden? Do we just start planting whatever we want?
Well, that's where careful plant selection comes in.
Okay.
The handbook suggests thinking about what will thrive in your specific climate and soil conditions,
Right.
as well as aligning your choices with the garden's overall goals.
Okay, so maybe hold off on those exotic dragon fruit trees unless we're in a tropical paradise.
Probably a wise move, but diversity is still key.
Okay.
The handbook encourages us to plant a mix of crops.
Right.
This helps ensure a continuous harvest throughout the growing season
Makes sense.
and also helps create a more resilient ecosystem.
So variety is the spice of life and a healthy garden.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about maximizing our yield? I'm all about a bountiful harvest.
Yeah.
And I bet our community would be thrilled with an abundance of fresh produce.
Oh, for sure. And the handbook shares some techniques for boosting your harvest.
Like what?
Like succession planting, where you stagger your plantings
Okay.
to ensure a continuous supply of veggies.
Gotcha.
And then there's intercropping, which involves planting different species together strategically
Okay.
to maximize space and create a harmonious plant community.
Intercropping. I've never heard of that. What's the benefit of that?
It's all about creating these beneficial relationships between the plants.
Mm.
For example, you could plant tall sunflowers alongside low-growing lettuce.
Okay.
The sunflowers provide shade and protect the lettuce from the scorching summer heat.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And certain herbs like basil can actually deter pests.
Oh, wow.
They act as like natural guardians for their neighboring veggies.
It's like creating a little plant society where everybody helps each other out. That's brilliant.
Okay.
But what about those pesky pests and diseases that always seem to attack my tomato plants? I'm guessing chemical pesticides are a no-go in a community garden.
You got it. The handbook is all about organic pest and disease management techniques.
Okay.
So we're talking healthy soil practices, companion planting, introducing beneficial insects.
Right.
It's about working with nature, not against it.
I love that approach. But let's be real. Gardening can be hard work.
It is.
How do we make sure the garden is sustainable in the long run, both in terms of keeping it up and keeping the community involved?
Those are really important considerations, and the handbook really emphasizes that. It stresses the importance of establishing clear roles and responsibilities,
Okay.
developing a sound financial plan, maybe through fundraising or grants,
Right.
and creating a system for ongoing maintenance and upkeep.
So it's about being organized, resourceful, and building a strong foundation for the garden to thrive on.
Exactly.
Makes sense. But beyond all the practical stuff,
Yeah.
how do we keep that community spirit alive and well?
Well, that's where creativity and community engagement come in.
Right.
The handbook is full of ideas for creating a really vibrant and welcoming garden space. You know, think about educational workshops, potlucks, community art projects.
Fun.
It's about turning the garden into a living, breathing hub where people feel connected and inspired.
This is all sounding so amazing. I'm already itching to get out there and start digging.
Me too.
But before we wrap up our deep dive into Chapter 1, is there anything else that we should keep in mind?
Yes, there is actually. There's one key takeaway that the handbook emphasizes that I think is worth repeating,
Okay.
and it's that every community garden is unique.
Okay.
It's a reflection of the community it serves.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Gotcha.
It's about embracing the diversity of your community,
Right.
listening to everyone's ideas,
Yeah.
and creating something truly special that fosters that sense of belonging and shared purpose.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's not about following a rigid blueprint. It's about creating something that truly embodies the spirit of the community.
Exactly.
I love that. We've covered a lot of ground here. And I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear more about the nitty-gritty of actually building and running a community garden.
Yeah, that's the exciting part.
So how do we get into that?
Well, luckily, Chapter 1 offers a really comprehensive overview of the entire handbook,
Poof.
and it guides you every step of the way.
Well, then let's dive into that overview. Okay, so we've talked about all the awesome benefits of starting a community garden.
Yeah.
We've covered finding the perfect spot, building a team, designing the garden.
Right.
Now, let's zoom out a little bit and see what else this handbook has to offer.
Yeah, that's where this Chapter 1 overview comes in.
Okay.
It acts like a roadmap
Got it.
and highlights the key sections and topics that are covered in the whole handbook.
So it's like a sneak peek into all the community garden wisdom.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, give me the highlights.
So it's like a gardening masterclass,
Okay,
but broken down into easy-to-digest chapters.
gotcha.
You'll find in-depth guidance on things like soil health,
Right.
composting,
Yeah.
planting techniques, and even organic pest control.
Okay, that's all pretty standard gardening stuff, right?
These are.
But this handbook is about community gardens. So what's different?
Well, what's really cool is the focus on community engagement and collaboration.
Okay.
There are whole chapters dedicated to decision-making processes, conflict resolution, and fostering a sense of shared ownership.
So it's not just about growing vegetables. It's about growing like a strong and resilient community.
That's a great way to put it.
I love that.
Yeah.
But let's be real. Starting a community garden can be a lot.
It can.
There's so many moving parts. So how does the handbook help with actually managing all of that?
Well, it gives you really practical advice on developing a garden management plan.
Okay.
And that includes creating a budget,
Okay.
fundraising strategies,
Yeah.
and even legal considerations.
Legal considerations. That sounds a bit intimidating.
It might sound that way, but the handbook breaks it down really clearly.
Okay.
And it covers things like land use agreements, liability waivers, all that essential legal stuff to make sure you're protected and the garden's protected.
So dotting our I's and crossing our T's to make sure everything's legit.
Exactly.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Okay, but beyond the legalities and logistics, I'm curious about the social impact of community gardens.
Yeah.
The handbook mentioned cultural celebrations and educational programs.
It does. The handbook really encourages community gardens to be these vibrant hubs
Right.
of cultural exchange and learning.
Okay, so like what?
You could have workshops on traditional gardening techniques,
Oh, cool.
potlucks with dishes from different cultures, even storytelling events that celebrate the history of the community.
Oh, wow. It's like the garden becomes a melting pot of cultures and knowledge.
It really does.
But with all this emphasis on community, how do we make sure that everyone feels included and represented?
That's a really important point, and the handbook stresses how crucial it is to create an inclusive and welcoming environment right from the start.
Okay.
And that means being mindful of language barriers, accessibility needs, and really actively seeking out diverse perspectives.
So building a garden where everyone feels like they belong and can contribute.
Exactly. And it's not just about inclusivity within the garden itself,
Right.
but it's also about extending that collaboration to the wider community. The handbook encourages partnerships with schools, businesses, organizations.
Okay.
It's about making the garden part of the fabric of the neighborhood.
Wow. This handbook goes way beyond just planting seeds.
It does.
It's like a guide to building something truly special, a place that nourishes both body and soul.
I couldn't agree more. And what's so exciting is this is just the beginning of your community gardening journey.
Right.
This deep dive into Chapter 1 has given you a little taste of the knowledge and inspiration in this handbook.
I don't know about you, but I am ready to go find my community and start digging.
That's the spirit.
This has been an amazing exploration, and I can't wait to see all the incredible gardens that sprout up thanks to this handbook.
Me too.
All right, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into community gardening. And remember, for more tips and inspiration, check out the handbook.
Happy gardening.